you. Right, okay. Timelines. I was going to talk about timelines.
Oh, on you go then.
Just an introduction to set you up.
Oh,
Right, hello. Now, you see, this is a world I didn't expect to come into. I didn't think, sitting in the car on the M25, we'd be talking prestatin. Prestatin. And also, I didn't think I would be eating egg mayonnaise sandwiches. Oh, oh, it's just lovely. Thank you for the food, Louise. It's really nice of you. Right. So, this is. It's happy out there. This is really dangerous for me because I've got lots of people who are specialists in brains. So I think, well, I normally do this before I start. But if I do this, you're going to be going, oh, and then I might do this. Then I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I could do a bit of suggestion. The truth is, as everybody knows, but I'm with a group of professionals, so I'm really scared. I'm going to go with this. But have some patience with me, because I'm the innocent amongst the pros. Right. And also, we have a small world, don't we?
yes.
We had a little chat about Microsoft earlier. Now, there's some stories there, aren't there?
Oh, yes.
So, I'm a marketer, allegedly, and I'm an academic, allegedly. And what I'm really interested in now, I teach at business school, and I have each year about 600 wonderful people from 100 to 120 countries, truly international, trying to help these people over 12 months make a dent in the universe, make the world a better place in some way. They're from all over the world. And one of the interesting pieces that I love doing is working on the softer skills. So in a business school, we can teach lots and lots of technical pieces, but it's the softer side, the emotional connection, I think is really important. So I sort of understand havening, I understand NLP, and I understand the mind piece, and I know it works. I really do. I then balance that softer side with the fact I'm a commercial monster, aka Microsoft. And I always think, why don't, or why doesn't, what you geniuses do have more effect in the world? I just think, why? And then, of course, I like watching Fraser. You know Fraser? The Enemy. There's a great line in one of the Fraser episodes where Niles Crane is cross because Fraser has stitched up one of his clients by solving her problem. And Niles Crane says, can't you see I've invested years in her because it becomes a revenue stream. Now, I'm always interested in revenue streams. I'm interested in how people make money. I'm interested in the end result. And because I am a... Well, where have you gone, Louise? Where have you gone? You're the audacious, you've moved. So you went round there, I thought you were going to go there. Are you there? You talk about elections and rise of fascism. I'm fascist. I'm a marketing fascist. Okay? I'm a zealot. I'm a fundamentalist. In the nicest, softest way. Because I'm marketing all the way through my life, whether as an academic before that I worked in advertising, so you could say I'm good, I'm bad, whatever I do, consumer behaviour, I've done psychology. I'm really interested in how you in a business engage with people. And I work with lots of young people who've got new ideas, who want to do that. We run something called the Hulk Prize. It's a $1 million prize every year, which is donated by the Hulk family. The Hulk family are EF, the language schools, and it's a $1 million prize each year awarded by Bill Clinton through the Hulk Foundation, which you get 4 or 5 students from any university in the world on a project which delivers some form of social entrepreneurism, social value to a community. So one project was Save the Bees. Last year it was about having quick, fast public transport in the slums of Mumbai. And there's all sorts. And these students, we work with them to work out who target audiences are. Because what I am interested in is you've got to know who you're talking to, which is why you scare me. You scare me so much. I protect myself on the call. I don't know what to do. Because I think you do great things. I really do think you do great things. I first got into this. I used to work at a business school called Henley, and loads of NLP was going on there. I thought, this is wild. This is fun. And then I watched Richard Bandler. And from that, I got into Havening, Paul McKenna talk, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. Richard Bandler says something, I'm going to get it wrong, because I always get things wrong, but He didn't care what the problem was, he just wanted to sort you out. And for you guys, I don't care what you do, I really don't. I'm too old and I've got too many things that go on in my head to care what you do. I just want to be concerned with the end result, which is helping people. And that's where I get cross, is when people get too complicated. And I think, my view, it's just my view. And if you think I'm saying the wrong things, blame Louise. It's all your fault.
I don't like this.
I want to share some. I just want to share some thoughts about ways to think, different ways to think about what you're doing, from somebody who's radically commercial, but also gets 100% what you do, and gets 100% the end result. And what not bores me, it depresses me, is when I talk to people about the type of processes that you use with people who look for the evidence and then say, well, I can't see the evidence, I'm not going to do it, and they fold their arms and cross their legs. I want us to break through that, because if people see the evidence, then you can help more people. So I'm coming from that. I shouldn't ever press these buttons, but I'm a useless person.
Do you want to sit there and press them?
No, it's fine, because it keeps my legs going.
You're still in frame.
I am still in frame. Hello, I'm still hello. So, that's just a nice picture. You run whatever you run. Now, however you describe what you do, I think is very interesting. The words you use are interesting. I read Deepak Chopra, another man, I think, he's a dude. He always talks about the meaning you give to an event becomes the event. And Winnie the Pooh, no, was it Winnie the Pooh? Or was it, I'm going to talk about Finding Nemo later. Was it Winnie the Pooh, or was it Kanga? Was it Kangaroo? What's the name of the kangaroo in Winnie the Pooh? Kanga. Or was it Kanga said, words mean anything people want them to mean. Doesn't matter what you call yourself. My gut feeling is I don't think we really know what we want to do and what we want to achieve. And I think we need some focus in this is what we're here for, this is who we want to help, and it's about being externally directed. So I wanted to talk, ramble, rant, whatever. I won't rant because it's a Saturday and I'm due to on Saturday and I want calmness. I want to talk about some different ways of looking at business, understanding where you come from. I want to talk about some cartoons. I like cartoons, not all cartoons. I want to give you some different ways of approaching things. I want to finish with a video which sort of leads you into what Sarah's going to do later. And if you want to abuse me or shout at me at any time, I can cope. I can take it, apart from you, because I don't trust you. First thing though, you lot, and I call you lot, okay? In the nicest way, because I don't know how to personalise it in any other way. What do I call you? You lot remind me of hipsters. You go, what? Hipsters? Hipsters? Now I'm looking at you now. Is anybody here dressed as a hipster? No, but get it. Hipsters. You remind me of hipsters. Now, why I say that is, and it's really important because I was in college because I'm a marketer. I'm really keen on differentiation, making sure that you stand for something that's different in the world. And so, have you seen this latest phenomenon on the internet, www, called mannequins? Yeah. Have you seen it? Yeah. Oh, man alive. So, Mustafa, student rep, comes up to me on Thursday. He says, hey, Prof, DJ. I said, Mustafa, what? He said, can we do the mannequin? I said, what do you mean, can we do the... We want to do the mannequin. And I knew what it was, because I'd heard it being spoken about. I checked on Googling things. I said, so what do you want to do the mannequin for? The mannequin is you all going to stand still. And play some music in the background. And then somebody films it, and you stick it on the internet.com thing. I said, so what do you want to do that for? He said, well, they're doing it in the undergraduate piece. I said, yeah, great, thank you for sharing that. I knew that. So what are you going to... So we're going to take precious time out of class, because we've got limited time, for us all to stand still for 15 minutes. Yeah. Play some music. Yeah. Film it. Yeah. And stick it on YouTube. Yeah. So Mustafa, talk me through why. He said, well, because then people can see it. So I said, well, how many other people are putting mannequin videos on YouTube, all over the internet at the moment? He said, millions! I said, so we're going to be just the same as everybody else. He went, Oh. So why don't we just bounce up and down and be anti-mannequins? Because the danger is we jump on bandwagons and we do what everybody else does. And the hipster is a classic example of this. Really interested in hipsters. I love watching hipsters. Hipsters always fascinate me. There's been some interesting discussion about hipsters going back way back to 2008. A French blogger, Madame Previn, said, hipsters avoid labels and are being labelled, or so they say. However, they all dress the same and act the same and conform in their non-conformity. Doesn't the fact that there is a hipster look go against the hipster beliefs? So we join into something. So I'm going to become a hipster. I'm going to grow the beard, have the tattoos, wear the certain clothes, and I look just like every other hipster because I want to be looking apart. We tend to, and I understand tribalism. I'm a marketer, I'm a brand, a consumer behaviour. I understand it, but we tend to look the same. And somebody else, these slides, by the way, I'm going to give to Sarah. Then you can have them and burn them if you want. I don't mind. Another researcher said, the observation of the blog of Julia Plevan in 2008 proves along the years and 2014 hipsters all look alike. Although their look evolves, the hipster effect is, now this is because I'm an academic, non-concerted, emergent collective phenomena of looking alike but trying to look different. You guys are following a non-concerted, emergent collective phenomenon. You're all exactly the same. That's where you are. I have to use at least one sort of academic sounding piece, otherwise you can't put me in profits. I could do a model if you wanted and some charts, but I'm not. But this is your problem. Well, I think this is a problem. Everyone's trying to be different but looks the same because everyone's doing the same stuff. And sometimes I look at sites and I look at people and I look at to try and get an angle on what's happening, and I get confused. I get very confused, and I've got a very small brain because I think about bubbles. Coming back to your point about the elections, right? Whatever your thoughts about a Donald Trump or a Hillary Clinton or a Nigel Farage or anybody else, it happened because people didn't. I could see it happening. Talked about the 23rd of June. We woke on the 23rd of June, and I switched my. Oh, what? But then it wasn't a surprise if I got out of my bubble. One of the problems is we tend to get into more and more tight bubbles. It's a media bubble. So I see student fights. They fight on social media. And they say, I'm going to defriend you. Are you going to defriend me? I am. And so then what happens is, if somebody in the bigger community, don't forget, you are all independent economic agents of activity. You're all independent economic agents. You have to get messages out, but people do disagree with you. If you're going to speak about, I'm a dodgy prof, if I say stuff, people will disagree with me. If I don't like people disagreeing with me, they are welcome to it. It's there. Fine, thank you for sharing. Yeah, Elizabeth, there you go, thank you for sharing. People are allowed their views. The problem we have in more and more industries, businesses, we see it in the news, is somebody has a view that you don't agree with, what happens? What do we do with the news story? We block it. And we get into smaller and smaller bubbles. And you see that all over social media, people get into smaller and smaller bubbles, and then when something happens that doesn't fit into your bubble bursts, you go, well, where did that come from? Well, it comes from being stuck in the bubble. And sometimes I think in all sorts of emergent industries, and you are in an industry. If you're being commercial, you are in an industry. Because if you're not in an industry, you've got to do this for free and just do it for fun. This is an industry. You're in a market. And as this market emerges, the danger can be that people start to get more and more enclosed. We see this all over the place. I used to work in advertising. One of the problems advertising agencies always have is doing creative work that works with the normal working person on the street, because the creative teams tend to be based in Shoreditch, they tend to be hipsters, and they don't see a world outside their small, tight, Hoxton-based community. So we need to get out of these bubbles and burst these bubbles. It's really important because there's a lot of work around about communication now called the brand ecoverse. I like that. I think it's really interesting. Who's watched, I think it's Brother Bear, where people call out and there's an echo coming back, hello, hello, is anybody? And people find they have a fight and they're talking to each other. One of the dangers with using media is people talk to each other. One of the dangers of people in emerging industries like yours is what you do is you look at what everybody else is doing, and then you look at what you've done, and then you look at what they've done. You say, oh, they're saying that, I'll say this, I'll say this, I'll say that. And I was looking at something the other week. I can't remember what industry it is, and it is, if you looked as an outsider, not a practitioner, but as an outsider, all you saw were abbreviations. All you saw were abbreviations. People keep saying to me, put all your qualifications. I say, well, why? It just become, it's like an alphabet. And who cares about the abbreviations, apart from other people with the abbreviations, or want that abbreviation? I see you got that. Oh dear, what is it? I can't remember. It's too long ago. So I think sometimes we're talking to the wrong people. If you took an external perspective on this, if you were somebody with a problem, a challenge, an issue, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a specific technique? Probably not. Because remember, you know the techniques because I guess you spent hundreds of hours, if not years. How long have you studied this stuff? Oh, there you go. Loads. Yeah, I could do a bit of hand.
Longer than I've been alive.
A lot. Longer than you've been alive. So 21 years you've been doing this. There you go. So you know it, and you know all the techniques, but if you come in from the outside and you see all this stuff, it gets quite frightening. There's an interesting editorial, there was a blog on scientific, do you ever look at the Scientific America website? There's a wonderful blog on Scientific America from a researcher who was talking about Scientific America, so it's a good site, good journal, good editing. You don't stick stuff on there that is vanilla. And he was citing research that's coming out of the University of Tokyo, it's coming out of China, South Korea, about how certain words in the industry you operate frighten people off. And he's talking about the words psychology and psychiatry, and how that frightens people, and how mental health is much better because you can put a cause to it. And the debate was the whole industry around psychology, psychiatry, whatever you call it, with a P-S-Y-C-H, is scary to people. Not scary to those inside it, because if you're inside it, you've invested lots and lots of time doing it. But to people looking in from the outside in, it's a bit of a, I don't get it. It becomes more and more frightening. So maybe we need to soften the language and talk in the language of people who are coming to talk to us. Come on, you can abuse me in the bar, I don't mind, I can cope. It's just a thought. Because have you seen this film Inside Out?
Yes.
What's it about?
Thoughts.
Sorry?
Thoughts, behaviour.
Inside the brain, isn't it?
Making it simple.
Making it simple. And it's actually wonderful for something I'm really interested in. I mustn't stand in front of this, but I will. Inside out, outside in, inside in. So it's inside out, outside in, inside in. One of the dangers for businesses, and you are businesses, you are an industry, is first what you want to do is get people from having what we call an inside-out perspective to an outside-in perspective. An inside-out perspective is where you in an industry, you've been to the same universities or the same courses, and you look at other people in the industry. So what you're doing is always looking at what the competition are doing. You're looking at how they're pricing things, how they're developing new products, how they're developing new services, who you think is doing best practice. You look at them, you look at them, you look at them all the time, inside, out, inside. Then you reflect it out to the world. Now, the problem with that is the world, being your potential customers, don't spend 24 hours a day, look at the competition, look at pricing, everything else. It's just a tiny little piece of their world. What you should do is you do an outside-in perspective. So you've got what you do, which is help people, because that's what you're in. You're here to help people, aren't you? That's what you're going to do. If I say, well, I'm here to help people, I won't look at anything else, I'll go then, okay, when people need help, from an outside perspective, what are they looking for, and what helps them to become helped? Where would they go for information? What type of words would they use? And when they got these challenges, if they go onto www.google.com/ whatever else and type in the words into the search engine, what are the words they're using? And I bet it's not certain techniques. I bet they're using very specific words that are not words that are used in the industry. So the way to do it is to go from inside out. This is what we do. You're all good at what you do. It's, okay, I'll step outside that. I'll get into the customer's shoes. So I'm getting out of my bubble again. I'll go from the customer's shoes. To do that, you've got to understand who your type of customer is. And it's not everybody. It's not everybody with a problem. You need to niche down and say, okay, from their perspective, what are they looking for? And I need to then mirror that back to them. I reflect back what they're after. That's an outside-in perspective. So it's not what you think is important, it's what the customer, the person, they are customers. Whatever you think, they're customers. Because you're running a business, you're in an industry. What are they after? Because you're wanting to help them. They reward you for helping them by giving you money, if you charge for fees. So, what do they want? Not what I can give them, what do they want? And then I can reflect it back. The worst place, so there you want to have an outside in, not an inside out. The worst place you can be is an inside in perspective, where you just look at what everybody else is doing and then reflect that again. And you just talk to each other, it becomes this echo. It's just a spinning circle. So it's really important, I think, for you to start thinking about what do people want? What are their challenges? Coming back to timelines. One way to do this is look at a customer journey, which is a traditional marketing consumer behaviour thing, where you look at what people do before they purchase, after they purchase, during their purchase, and when they finish purchasing. When somebody is at that point, when they're looking for help, how do they get to that point, and where do they look for information? And this is you thinking about it. Where they look for information, the words they use, the language they use, I need to start thinking it from that way. So it might be worth thinking from that angle. And looking at the cartoon's very good. So we need to think about, why do people come and see you? And there's a great theory called the theory of jobs to be done. Now a theory, we could discuss what a theory is forever. Really get into how theories, but essentially what a theory is find a theory. You can think of the theory as a magnifying glass, and a magnifying glass with a telescope to focus on a problem and find a mechanism to come up with a solution. Now, there's a man from Harvard Business School called Clayton Christensen, who you may never have heard of, probably wouldn't, but he's a clever man. Clayton Christensen developed something called disruptive innovation. Some of you may have heard of disruptive innovation, companies who are disruptive in an industry. And he says, this is how you disrupt stuff. Clayton Christensen has gone quiet and then he's come back with this idea of jobs to be done. His argument is, businesses are very poor at understanding what customers want. They spend millions and millions of dollars doing customer research and they can't find out what customers want because they look at it in the wrong way. He says, you're not looking for products or solutions, you're looking for jobs to be done. So when somebody comes to you, what is it as a job they are hiring you for? Because they are hiring you to do a job. And he was talking about, he uses a great example in real estate about the challenge of doing something or doing nothing. Because normally what we do, when we look at who we compete with, and in any industry, this is a danger. You become internally, say, okay, I'm competing with that therapist, that consultant, that whoever you want to call yourself, that person, that person, that person. If the client doesn't buy from me, they're going to buy from somebody else. And he said, that's wrong. Actually, what they're doing is they're looking for a reason not to buy. What are the excuses not to buy? Because as soon as you buy, you're taking a risk, you're spending money. So always looking for excuses not to buy. So if you can find the reason why they should buy, what is a job they want from you, you can then work out how to provide a solution. And he used the case of there's all sorts of cases, but he uses a great case in real estate in the States. He was looking, he worked with some property developers in a number of US cities who were selling 3 and 4 bed houses and flats, but normally 3 bedrooms, to couples late 50s to mid 60s who were retiring and downsizing. So children have gone to university. They had the big 5, 6 bedroom house because you have that in the States. Now the children have gone away to university, we need to downsize. So we're going to downsize and move into, say, a 3 bedroom condominium. So that's a flat or an apartment or a house. And real estate the real estate agents were having real problems. They built these new houses, new flats, 3 bedrooms. People had come around, they weren't buying. Rather than doing something, they're doing nothing. So what they do, they said, okay, let's pave the windows, let's put more insulation in, let's make bigger car parking spaces, let's put sexier kitchen units in, let's pipe in the fastest broadband connections. People still weren't buying. Because what the real estate agents were doing was classic marketing. You were looking at, okay, somebody wants to move house. If they want to move house, we offer them product, we offer them features. Floor size. Still wasn't working. So what Clayton Christensen and his people at Harvard did is they interviewed people in their late 50s to mid-60s who were thinking of moving but not moving to do a timeline on the decision making to find out where it blocked. And they started talking to these people, and you get some people you've worked with and say, what made you come to us? What was the job you wanted done? And by doing this, they changed how this industry works. And they looked at what would stop somebody moving house. And once they worked out the doing nothing, they could work out how to overcome that. So these are people who are downsizing from a 5-bedroom or 6-bedroom big house. And when they talked, first thing was, so you've got to get a 5 or 6-bedroom house which has got all the memories from 30 years of bringing up 2, 3, 4 children, and all the artefacts of prestatyn and all the memories and egg cress sandwiches. You've got memories and tangible pieces. You can't get them all into that 3-bedroom building anymore. What are you going to do with them? You can't throw them away because there is massive emotional connection. It takes you time to throw them away. So the first thing they said is, okay, rather than doing 3 car parking spaces, for each 3-bedroom, one of the car parking spaces is a storage area. So for every house you've got a storage area that's locked and monitored and environmentally controlled. You can put all the artefacts and all the history of your life in for 2 years until you can make your mind up what to do with them. That really worked. Because that is a job they wanted done, and that was a reason not to do it. And the other piece was a work of art, but you only get it from talking and looking at the customer's view coming back in. Dining room tables, or the kitchen table. So you've got a big house, you've got family, where does everyone congregate? Kitchen, around the kitchen table. And you've got the big kitchen table, it's a big investment, you've had it for 30 years. I know somebody who's got a kitchen table and it's got teeth marks around it from where the children is, and it's history. And you move into a 3-bedroom small house and you've got a small kitchen with very sexy kitchen equipment. I can't put the table in it. Where am I going to put the kitchen table? And that was the other reason why they wouldn't move. Can't store the memories, and I can't fit a kitchen table in. So then they changed the design in the flats and the houses to make a big kitchen with room for a table for 8 people, and people went bang, 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 and they started to move. Simple as that. What is the job that you want to have done? Moving house is not actually about moving house, it was about moving memories. It was about moving memories, because your house is full of memories. So if I have to leave those memories apart, I can't do it. So if I can take my memories and stick them in the extra car parking space, and have a bigger kitchen and a smaller 3rd bedroom, because I'm just going to throw the grandkids and they can shut up and lock the door, I keep my memories. That was the job people wanted to have done. But they only got that by going outside in. Rather than talking to more real estate agents and talking to the architects and talking to the kitchen planners and the bed planners, that was going wrong. They talked to people. So I think you should think about looking at it from the outside in and think about jobs to be done. It's a really fascinating area. Maybe, as I said about Scientific America, you should call yourself something new. What you call yourself defines who you are. Remember, words mean anything people want them to mean. This man, dead actually, unfortunately, is a man called David Abbott. David Abbott used to be the creative director of an agency called Abbott Mead Vickers. He did the Volvo ads, he wrote the Economist ads, he did the Sainsbury's ads, and he was a writer. Words are incredibly powerful. And he said, words for me are the servants of the argument. Words are a servant of your argument. And maybe what you should start thinking about is the language you use to describe yourself and how you tell stories. How you communicate what you are. Quran, the Bible, why are they powerful? Because they're stories. Beginning, middle, end. Challenge, villain, hero, bit of moral terror, solution, happiness. It's storytelling. So how you describe what you do, and I see lots of websites where people are confused. It's in all sorts of areas. A lot of time with entrepreneurs. I work with dozens of entrepreneurs. I get hundreds of ideas a year thrown at me. It's filtering them all. Okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? People have ideas and they're strewn with technology, they're strewn with emotion, strewn with a passion, want to change the world, and it becomes a monologue, as I'm giving you a monologue. It's a monologue at me. It's not a dialogue, it's a monologue. It's just thrown at me. And I just go in my head and go, that's a Richard Band for you. Switching it off. So I've introduced them to something that comes from a man called Daniel Pink. Has anyone ever heard of Daniel Pink? Yeah, Daniel Pink. To sell is human. If you want to work out how to pitch to people, Daniel Pink done something called To Sell is Human. And he talks about storytelling. And I think what you should do, just my view, is think about working out how you can tell your story based on what is called the Pixar pitch. What do Pixar do? Cartoons, which are stories. Now, the framework that Pixar use for you to sell in a story to them is based on a one-page or a one PowerPoint presentation. It's how you write your story. I'll introduce the framework. You might think it's slightly mad, but you have to trust me on this because I'm a doctor. You can use that, trust me, I'm a doctor. It works. It works. So the Pixar pitch, this is a Pixar film, Finding Nemo. Who hasn't seen Finding Nemo? 1, 2, 3. 3, okay. I did this with 500 students 2 weeks ago and I had 2, so you got 3, okay. You're going to know what the film is. You never need to see it. I'm going to save you ever going to see it, okay. It is about, storytelling. It's about, first of all, once upon a time. Once upon a time is the introductory 4 letters of a sentence which contextualises the background to something that's going to happen. That's what once upon a time is. It sets the background, it sets the context, it positions something. So if you want to say what you do, it's once upon a time, I was in this and I saw a... Because you were telling Sarah once upon a time story when we stood just here.
Absolutely.
And it works. Once upon a time, something happened. It's event, it's a trigger. It sets a context. Every day, because of what happened, something else happens. You build the habit, you build the bad behaviour, you build something that doesn't work. Once upon a time, something happened. Every day, because of that, this happened. Eventually, you reach the trigger. Reach the point, the old tipping point, where one day, and I'll show you how this works. I'll do Finding Nemo in one slide, what the story of Finding Nemo, and I want to show you a business one. I want you to think about it for your businesses. One day, something happened. Because of that, something else happens, normally bad. Bad happens because of the context, and every day something happens and there's a big event and leads to the badness. You've got the villain coming in, then you have the hero because of that. Something else good happens until finally what happens? We all live happily ever after. It's called the Pixar pitch. Now you might think this is slightly odd, slightly weird, but it works. If you take the time to write a story of you and what you do and how it works based on this. Because also, when you do, and I run it with hundreds and hundreds of students, the laughter from breakout rooms when they do this is just tremendous. You write the stories, they start drawing pictures and off it goes, and then people add lines into it, and you see them doing storyboards, and it allows you to tell all sorts of stories of who you are and what you do. So if you looked at Finding Nemo, once upon a time, there was a widowed fish named Marlin who was extremely protective of his only son, Nemo. Why was he a widowed fish?
I
His wife got eaten by the shark. And what happened to the other 99 babies of Marlin and Mrs. Marlin, now ex to be deceased and everything else? What happened to the other 99? They got eaten too, so he's got Nemo left. And why? So he's really protective of Nemo because Mrs. Marlin's been eaten, Nemo's 99 brothers and sisters have been eaten, and what else about Nemo? He's got a little fin! So father protects, sets a context. Contextually, that's what happens. Still saving you loads of money. So, every day, because of this, Marlin warned Nemo of the ocean's dangers and implored him not to swim away. Because that's what he did. What does that do to Marlin?
Makes him want to swim away.
Makes him want to swim away. Context, habit, bad habits, off it comes. So, one day, in an act of defiance, Nemo goes, yeah, whatever, Dad. Nemo ignores his father's warnings and swims into the ocean water. And if you think about the film, you've got the hull of the boat, and off Nemo goes, and the light blue, and it goes darker and darker and darker blue, and he swam away. There you go. That is 35 minutes into a film. It's in 3 sentences. 3 sentences. Because of that, what happened? He is captured by a diver and ends up as a pet in the fish tank of the Sydney dentist. That's what happened to him. That's the story. What does Marlin now do? Come on, somebody. He goes in search of him. So, because of that, Marlin sets up on a journey to recover Nemo, enlisting the help of other creatures along the way. Bang, there you go. That takes you all the way through to the last 5 minutes of the film. Introduces new characters. It's a story until finally what happens? Marlin and Nemo find each other, reunite, and learn that love depends on trust. That is a whole movie in 6 sentences on 1 slide. It's called the Pixar pitch. Once upon a time, every day, one day, because of this, because of that, until finally. And it works for you to clarify what it is you do if you take the time and put some energy into writing one. I'm going to show you a business one that Dan used, which is a great one for a startup. So this is the context. Once upon a time, there was a health crisis haunting many parts of Africa. What would the health crisis be? AIDS. You don't have to start saying what this crisis was. You don't have to say because of various things, blah, 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 yada, yada, off we go. Once upon a time, there was a health crisis. Haunting, what a great word. Haunting, bringing the finger, mild terror. Haunting many parts of Africa. What happened? What was happening because of that every day? Every day, thousands of people died of AIDS and HIV-related illnesses. Now, this is the business piece, often because they didn't know they carried the virus. So you've got the context, you've got what happens because of that context, but now we're spinning it into a business piece. One of the reasons lots and lots of people died is they didn't know they carried the virus. Why wouldn't they know they carried the virus? Testing. Testing would be done by blood samples. Blood samples in various parts of Africa are not an easy thing to do. So, these guys say, one day we developed an inexpensive home HIV kit allowing people to test themselves with a simple saliva swab. That's your pitch. You've got context, problem, solution. Now this is a more positive rather than a mild terror one for children's stories, because we then have 2 because of that which are positive. Because of that, more people got tested. So what happens if more people get tested?
You've got a big market for drugs.
Oh, you cynic! You're going children! You got a big... Okay, spit your cynic out. Just follow the story. Just be a nice man. Because of that, those with infection sought treatment, which is your cynical way of selling drugs, and took measures to avoid, let's look at the positive, to avoid infecting others.
Except actually, no, they don't.
Except
That's another story.
Okay, let's not get into this. Let's look at the bigger picture. Okay, we've got to look at one of the dangers we have always is the yes but. It's a storytelling technique that's really important for you to tell the story, and that's where we need to work. Until finally, this menacing disease slowly spread, and more people live longer lives. That's a great story, and you need to start doing this. I implore you to write out what you do as a story, because by forcing you to think about the story, it allows you to really think about what it is, what you do, and why people are coming to talk to you. Because that becomes the outside-in approach. It becomes part of your pitch, which Sarah's going to go into more detail. Think about mapping your clients. Part of this is about how do you help people. So let's going to talk about this, who you are, what you do, who you do it for. Now, 2 extra questions. What do they want or need from you, and how do they feel from you as well? These are good questions to start asking when you're thinking about this. So you sit there, you're helping people. The danger is you get stuck in a bubble of looking at what other people do to help people, and it all becomes a spin. Let's stop and let's start looking outside. And because we're getting near to Christmas, I'm going to show you a video, because that's nice. And this video is a TED Talk. I like TED Talks, some are rubbish, but this is a good one. So, are you going to stay awake for this? I don't want anyone snoring, and don't go on your phone to just check your text. See, the danger of telling people to turn their phones onto silent is they still do it, they just go. Just go like that.
Maybe I'm taking photos of you.
Maybe you're taking photos. Who's got children at university? Do you know what they do in class all the time? You see them reflecting off the sky. It's just a nightmare. This is
everywhere else, so why not today?
because in lectures, in life, remember, you've got to keep the main thing the main thing. Always remember, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. When they're in lectures, the main thing is to be in the main thing is to be in the lecture, not on their phone. No, I'm not going to rant on that because I'll just get upset. This is 12 minutes of joyous video after this. Right, I'd like you to watch this and really listen to what Adam talks about.
Turn the heating up. It's freezing. Turn the heating up. It's freezing.
Yeah, we'll do that in a minute.
It's really cold.
On the last evening of my 25th college reunion, there was a party in a tent. There was dancing and music and noise. So much noise that a lot of us started to drift out of the tent so we could hear each other talk and catch up with classmates that we had not seen in more than 2 decades. As I talked with my friends, I made an astounding discovery. 80% of them were unhappy with their lives. I feel as though I've wasted my life and I'm halfway through it, they said. I don't know what my life is all about. Now, I was privileged to go to Yale, and we were standing on a summer evening in the middle of Yale's old campus, and the people that I was speaking with were privileged and highly educated and financially well off in positions of power. And they had the first house and the second house, and they had the first spouse and the second spouse. And 80% of them were unhappy with their lives. Who was happy, the 20%? Well, we had studied literature and Renaissance rhetoric, and we were the theater people and the history geeks. We had studied classes for the joy of learning, not because we thought they were going to direct us to a specific job. We still got jobs. We were living our lives expansively with life's ups and downs, and we did not feel that we had wasted a single minute. And as I spoke with the 20%, the happier 20%, I discovered that each of them knew something about their life purpose because they knew 5 things: who they were, what they did, who they did it for, what those people wanted or needed, and what they got out of it, how they changed as a result. Does that sound hard? It's not. It's actually really simple. In fact, it's so simple that you can learn your life purpose now. You're going to know your life purpose now in the next 5 minutes. Would you like to know your life purpose in the next 5 minutes? Can you be a little bit louder, because they're making a lot of noise in the tent, and there's just this silly little microphone next to my cheek to hear you. Would you like to know your life purpose in the next 5 minutes? Thank you. Actually, it's not even going to take 5 minutes. So can I share something else with you? If you're like a lot of us, you have wondered and worried about your life purpose for a long time. And there are books and magazines and workshops and seminars about it. In fact, Amazon lists 151,928 books that refer to how you can learn your life purpose. Well, I know some people who have spent their entire lives trying to learn their life purpose. And look, we can all agree that the unexamined life is not worth living. But if all you're doing is examining, you're not living. So let's figure out the life purpose right now together. Who you are, what you do, who you do it for, what those people want and need, and how they change as a result. Shall we do it? All right. Everybody, on the count of 5, shout out your first name. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fabulous. That was the first one, only 4 to go. That's who you are. All right, now what do you do? What do you love to do? You love to write, cook, design, create iOS apps, write code, crunch numbers, talk, teach. What do you love to do? And if there's a lot of things that come up for you, focus it down by asking yourself this one question. What is the one thing that right now you feel supremely qualified to teach other people? Think about that in one word. Hold it, don't release it yet. On the count of 5. What do you do? 1, 2. Great, that's what you do. Now, think about who you do it for. Picture them in your mind. Be ready to say it on the count of 5. Hold it, don't release it yet. 1, 2. Okay, who do you do it for? Let's see it one more loud, a little bit louder, please. Over the people in the tent. Who do you do it for? Together? Thank you. That is the spirit that we need. Okay, now, what do those people want or need? What do they want or need that they've come to you so you can give them this thing? What do they want or need? In just 1 or 2 words, hold it, don't release it yet. And on the count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fantastic. Now, this is the best one. How do they change? How do they change or transform as a result of what you give them? On the count of 5, how do they change or transform as a result of what you give them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Terrific. Now, we're going to put this all together kind of in a sentence, okay? Everyone together, louder than the people in the tent. Who are you? What do you do? Who do you do it for? What do they want or need? How do they change as a result? Fantastic. You have all just done something that people who went to Yale could not figure out for 25 years. Congratulations. Give yourselves a hand. Now, why is that formulation so powerful? Because of all those 5 things that you need to know what your life purpose is. Only 2 are about yourself. The others, 3 of them, are about other people. Who they are, what they want or need, and how they change as a result. That formulation forces you to be outward-facing. And all the happier people that I met outside the tent on that warm New Haven night, they were outward-facing, they were not inward-facing. They knew very clearly whom they served, what those people needed, and how those people changed as a result. And you may have intuited this already, that the most successful people in any field always focus most on the people that they serve and on how they are served themselves. Happier people make it a point to make other people happy and do things that make them feel well taken care of and secure. If you make other people happy, life teaches us we will be taken care of too. So since you all did so well, you have time for just a little bit of extra credit. One of the most difficult things that happens when you meet people for the first time is they ask you this question. So what do you do? And if you're like some of us, that's a really challenging question sometimes, particularly if you're in these moments where you're between things, or you're feeling vulnerable, or it isn't defined, or what you seem to do isn't what you really do, or what you're paid to do isn't how you define yourself. So when people ask you this question, so what do you do? And also you got this monologue going on, like, why is he asking me, so what do I do? It's because it's that transactional thing where it's like he wants to know if he should really spend time talking to me, or it's that other thing so he can tell me what he does because he's sure it's really so much better than what I do, right? So when somebody asks you that question, here's what you do. You just say the very last thing you called out, how what you do changes the people you do it for. So for example, you might say, I give kids awesome dreams. If your life purpose is, I write books for children so they can fall asleep at night, so they can have awesome dreams. Or you might say, I help people look and feel their best. If your life purpose is, I design apparel for men and women who need affordable choices so they can look and feel their best. Or you might say, I help people get great work into the world. If your life purpose is, I train entrepreneurs and creative people to take decisive actions so they can get their greatest work into the world. And then, that little snippet that you just said becomes your personal elevator pitch. And it will always start the conversation. Because the person that you were just talking to has to ask you a question. How do you give kids great dreams? How do you help people look and feel their best? Can people really get their greatest work into the world? And then you get to tell them. And you get to share your life purpose. And you get to share how they may come to learn theirs, too.
Right, so, good video. Thing for you to think, because Tev's going to do a lot more of this moving forward. When he's asking people the questions, if you notice people start to mumble. The biggest mumble they have is, who do you serve? And they go, moo, and he says, a little bit louder, please. And all they do is, instead of going, moo, they go, because they don't actually know who they serve. And actually, if you listen to this a lot of times, which I have, and they say, what do you do for them? People keep going, everything. You need to be focused. You need to know who you serve, what they want, and what you give them, and build it into your pitch. The best thing about the elevator pitch, which is rather than what you can just do is brilliant, is because one of the things we teach a lot at Holt is about interview techniques and persuasion. We spend a lot of time working on persuasion because we're sending these young, wonderful people out to work in businesses where a lot of people are jealous because they've got a master's degree and they try and pick on them, and then they're young in charge of older people. You've got to learn the art of persuading, getting people to move along. And a lot of this is about how you get people to ask questions. And for example, my elevator pitch, if I'm doing coaching type of stuff, is I hope you do better by removing the doubts. That's what I say. And then what happens, we say, well, how do you do that? Because this how, what you're doing, if you ask this pitch, if you do this in the right way, you get the person you're talking to ask you a question. And when they ask you a question, cognitively, they're involving themselves with you and what you do. And they are giving you permission, rather than you telling them what you do, They are by asking you a question, giving you permission to engage in the dialogue with them, and there you can open up what you do so you can help people be so much better than they've been all the way through. So it's a good video, and I'll give these slides to Sarah and she can send them out to everybody. Because your challenge, my challenge to you, to everybody in this room, is to go and create something. Do better at what you do. And remember, it's all about who your target audience is. You know what you do. You've got to spin it into the way your target audience looks at things. You take, again, it's outside in. You said the first two things are inner directed. Everything else is about being outer directed. You look at people outside. What do they want? What do they need? How can I then help them? Remember looking at the house builders. Most people are looking for reasons why not. So if people are looking for help, they're looking for excuses why they shouldn't do it. Always, if you take what Clay Christensen talks about, jobs to be done, people are always looking for reasons not to do things. So in the houses, there are reasons why you don't have to move. So what are the reasons people are not going to come to you, and then you can spin it. So if you can do that, I think the world becomes better because you help people. And this is what you're here for. How do you think about that? And I think I'm about 47 or 48 minutes, so I'll shut up now.
That's right. You do
And
that.
go and cry. I challenge you to do it.
Yeah.
If you're interested in a lot of the behavioural stuff, which I know you are, on my Twitter thingy-tube, I do tweet stuff. I put stuff on strategy, I put stuff on marketing, I put stuff on entrepreneurship, and I put stuff up about sort of neuroscience bits, nothing like you do, because I'm not clever on that area, but it's just interesting reading areas. I never write anything myself, I just share. So have a look at that. That's me done. You can assault me in the bar or over canapes later, and I'll now shut up and sit down and behave myself.
Wow, I didn't know what to expect either. But David, thank you. It was entertaining, gripping, and it's given us a really strong message. And it actually really neatly fits in with what Amy and Sarah are going to do later, because you're all going to do an elevator pitch. You're going to have an exercise about doing elevator pitch. So we have, should we have a few minutes to mull around, maybe get a drink, spend a penny, and make a decision about how we want to use the next hour? Yeah? I can ask if we can use another area. So if people want to divide up into one-to-one and actually have some havening by connecting, that's okay. I'm sure there's somewhere that we could find to use for that. We can do group work, we can do demonstrations, we can do discussions. Okay. So should we say it's 25 past now? Do what you need to do and come back within 10 minutes. So 25 to, if you can be in here, that will be grand. Thank you. Yeah, that's what that's why I said it. Sorry. Yeah.
Really good.
Enjoyed it?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
We're going to do a big section this afternoon that really gives you a chance to practice that. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.